Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
So I'm just firing up the recording right now, so you're good from here.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining Clipboard Crazies Week 5. We got Coach Joey Gallo from Merrimack College. A little bit background on him. Graduated from Merrimack in 2004. He played, then he coached there from 2005 to 2009. After that, he went to Dartmouth from 2010 to 2012. Then Robert Morris from 2012 to 2016. And now he's back at Merrimack starting in 2016 to now. His first 3 years, they were a Division II team, did very well. This past year, they moved up to Division I, and they won the NEC title in their first year in Division I. So thanks for coming on, Coach. You can take it from here.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me. We were just saying before the recording, I know that the title is 2-guard and 2-3 zone. Initially, I didn't think I'd put as much offensive stuff together as I would, but my 2-month-old was up a little bit earlier today. So once I got him back down, I had some time to put a little edit together. So I'm ready to roll. But before I get into, the actual X and O stuff, to me, your players are the most important thing. So, whether, I don't know everyone who's on this call, but, at the college level, you have a little bit more of a choice of who your team is. Sometimes you don't at, maybe a high school level, but obviously without good players or players that are bought in, none of us are going to win many games anyway. So, regardless of what you run, players are the most important thing. And then, before we even talk about our 2-guard, which we call keys, or our 2-3 zone, we talk more about just our overall philosophy and how that plays into everything we do, right? And I'll kind of give you our 5 things that we try to hang our hats on. And we talk about this from day one in the recruiting process, and we try to, continue this through guys graduate. So, our biggest thing, number one, is player development never stops. A lot of times I think you can get caught up in the wins and losses, and it's, you got a game the next day, and we all forget about getting our players better. And, I think if you have a team of individuals that continues to improve throughout the year, your team will continue to improve as well. And, we're pretty detailed in our extra workouts. We keep them short. Guys come in all the time for a little, sometimes we say, get what you need and what makes you feel good. And, sometimes it's 20, 25 minutes, but guys are, in the gym constantly getting better. Number 2, we talk about, and this kind of fits into the way we play. We just talk about being the best trained team at what we do. We don't really care what anyone else does. And this was huge for us, especially making the transition to Division I, because it just kind of put our guys at ease. We'd say it doesn't matter if we are playing, St. Michael's or Stonehill, or if we're playing Providence or Northwestern. Just be the best trained team at what we do. And then it really doesn't matter who we're playing against. And a lot of that goes into how we practice, even our player development. We don't waste a lot of time. It's very rare that we'll ever practice over 2 hours. Once games start, never over 90 minutes. And it's all towards how we play, right? There's not, I saw this cool drill on the internet, Kentucky did it, so we're going to do it today, right? If it has nothing to do with our 2-guard system, with our zone, with what we do in transition on both sides, kind of, the 4 moments of the game, then we're not doing it. So it's be the best trained team at what we do. It's not what you do, it's how you do it, is number 3. And, that was, I got that working for Andy Toole at Robert Morris. And, I tell this story all the time. It's probably my 2nd or 3rd day with him, and we're doing a shell segment. And I let a guy probably get away with, not getting to the center line or not jumping to the gap 2 or 3 times in a row. And he stopped the practice and let me hear about it, and basically said, everybody in the country is doing shell today, right? We all know shell. He's like, what teams are actually getting better and holding their guys accountable, or just running the clock down 8 minutes and saying, okay, shell's done, check the box, right? So it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Number 4, we talk about how long can you keep that day one feeling, right? We love energy, we love excitement. Everybody loves the first day of practice, right? New practice uniforms, new sneakers. The gym's probably, I don't know about some of your places, but it's never as clean as it was, on day one. And the floor smells great, like the cleaning product, and everybody's ready to go. How long can we keep that feeling, right? We start every practice with some sort of competitive drill. Usually non-contact, like a layup drill, get X amount in this amount of time. And it's amazing how high that number will be on day one. And then I'll remind the guys in January, hey, righties, lefties, we got 62 on October 1st. We got 51 today, right? Why are we not as excited as we were, 2.5 months ago? So how long can we keep that feeling? And then the last part is just kind of who we are. And it kind of helps us keep that day one feeling. And we talk about stay loose but hungry. So we have fun, right? It never crosses the line where we compete like crazy. Guys go at it. But we stay pretty loose. We listen to music sometimes at the beginning of practice. I have no problem with, guys making a shot and letting their teammate hear it about it and jawing a little bit and smacking them on the ass. And I think that keeps them wanting to come back to the gym if you have fun, right? If you're dreading every day coming to the gym, it's really hard to get better. Next one is kind of this is a John Beelineism. You can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? And I think having a system, regardless of what it is important, right? And this is what it does for me. It keeps me organized, right? I have a checklist of what's our next entry we're putting in, what's our next set we're putting in, what's the next action we have to guard in our zone, week by week. It keeps me organized. It keeps me grounded, right? In the last 5 months, how easy would us to try and put in 75 new plays because of just losing our minds and being bored and seeing new stuff, every day on Twitter, right? So, we don't put something new in unless it fits what we do. Even if we see something we like, we have to figure out a way to kind of mesh that into our 2-guard alignment. I think having a system helps your players grow, right? Guys really just get better at their position, and you see it for us on both sides. They get, a guy as a freshman might have came off that same pin down, over 100 times by the time he's a junior, right? He's not learning something new every single year, and then back to square one. And I think it allows players to just go play, right? As much as all of our players say, I wish coach would just let me ball. Go ahead and say just ball and see what your team does. They'll look at you within the first 5 possessions for some sort of guidance, right? So we give them some structure and then go ball, right? There's so much disorder in a game. To add some order to it, I think just puts our players at ease. And this is my first year. We tried to be, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I knew we wanted to play the zone. Wasn't quite sure what we wanted to do on offense. So I was my big thing now is no matter what you do, make sure you have a why and know why you're doing it, right? Not just because someone else does it, right? So we were going to be a ball screen motion team. My why at the time was because I love Billy Donovan and I wanted to be the next Billy Donovan. That was it, right? Then we get into, a couple scrimmages, couple games, right? I have a 4-man who really, really shoots it. And, I now realize as a dumb young coach, well, the league we play in switches everything half the time 1 through 5, right? Maybe now we probably still could have found some ways to counter that. But this 4-man who's making, 74 threes in our 5-minute 3 drill can't get a shot because they're just switching everything, and we look like windshield wipers on offense, and we're just going back and forth, side to side to side to side to side to side, right? So I didn't have a why. I just wanted to be ball screen motion because everybody else was doing it. This is why I love the 2-guard, right? It's multidimensional, right? There's down screens, there's back screens, there's flare screens, there's on-ball screens, there's off-ball screens, there's cutting, there's great spacing. Once you get into some of the specials and the counters, there's great deception, which is a lot of offense. Everything looks the same, right? You start the same way, and then all of a sudden there might be some little tweak or quick action that can catch a defense off guard, right? And then it also it aligns with how we recruit and how we play defensively, right? So if you look at the shape of our offense and the shape of our defense, it's the same exact thing. We have guards, we have wings, and we have a 5. And it allows us to do different things. You know, we can technically play 2 wings that cannot guard the ball at all, and they can't dribble. And we could find a way for those guys to be successful because in our zone, they never have to guard the ball. And as wings, if they can't dribble, well, then we don't need them to dribble. We'll get them shots other ways. They can be, you know, they can really, really shoot it. They can be great cutters. They can screen. They could find other ways to be effective within the 2 guard. So my first thing with figuring out how you want to play is have a why. Number 2, I would think about how do you end? And we'll get in, you know, what we call pinches. The 2 guard purist calls them jungles. We end a lot in pinches, kind of triangle action, wing, corner, elbow. So we better be good at those. Maybe you end in a ball screen. Maybe you end by throwing it into the post. Hopefully we all end with an open shot or some sort of closeout where we can attack off penetration. But does your team know what you're doing off of penetration? Right? Do you have a plan, or does everyone just watch the one person drive and throw up a wild shot? Right? So, you know, think about how you end. And it could be none of this is right, none of it's wrong. It's just if a lot of your stuff ends in a down screen, then throw it into the post. What are you doing after it goes into the post? And does your team know that? And then the last piece is how do your best players score, or how do all your players score? Right. So for us, we're not pigeonholed into this, you know, 2 guard isn't just one thing. What it ends up becoming for us is just a series of a ton of quick hitters with great spacing. Right. So we had a point guard who could really post last year. We did some things to post him. Our point guard this year doesn't post. He's got world-class speed. We're going to figure out ways to put him in space so that he could use his speed to get us advantages. Right. So again, figure out how your players score. I didn't do that my first year when we were going ball screen motion, right? This poor guy who shot the ball as good as anyone I've ever seen, he can't find a shot because I have him ball screening and rolling, or he's ball screening and popping and everyone's just switching. And he's looking at me like, how come I cannot find a shot, right? So figure out how your players score and then work that into what you do.
Coach, do you think having it as a series and everything starting the same way helps make it harder to scout for other teams?
Yeah, I think it's hard to scout, one, and I think it's really hard it's really easy for your players to remember it all. Because I'll show you a few quick hitters. Some of them, nobody does anything different except one guy. And that one guy is the guy that gets to either drive it or shoot it. So he's happy. Of course, he's going to remember that one. So it allows you, like if I had my play card on me, I'd flash it to the screen. By the end of the year, we probably have 65 calls. But if you asked our players, I don't think any one of them would feel overwhelmed by it. Right? We don't dummy offense for an hour and a half a day to remember all this stuff. We kind of just build it little by little. And we probably dummy offense at the most 5 minutes a day. Right. And then obviously there's always guys that, you know, might have a little bit harder time remembering some things, and they'll stay after with assistant coaches and myself, and we'll kind of go through stuff. But it's just a lot of quick hitting. You know, if I'm my 4-man, I always start on the right side of the floor. So for him, he's really doesn't have to remember a whole lot. He goes to the right side, and on this play he's doing this, on this he's doing that. And again, a lot of them, as you'll see, are very, very similar actions with just kind of a tweak based on some different things we may see during a game. Any other questions before I pull this edit up?
Looks like we're good.
Good, all right. Let me, I can share my screen, correct?
Yeah. You got it. Do you? All right, yeah.
All right, so the way I broke this down, there's really just 3 basic entries. And then, each entry kind of has, different parts where there's scoring opportunities. Something we need to get better at is actually kind of going through each checkpoint and cutting hard and, not just coming off a back screen half-assed because I'm probably not going to get it. If you go through, I kind of broke each entry down. It's really a lot to guard, right? And then if we don't score off the actions, we know we're usually ending in those pinches, jungles that we talked about. So this is the initial entry, right? And the first thing we're looking to do is play off this first pin down, right? So there's our 2-guard front, right? The initial entry is just point guard cuts ball side, 2-guard comes over for a catch. We could run this stuff both ways, right? Some of our specials, we only run one way. All the initial entry stuff, all our guys know these, they can throw it both ways, right? So here's this initial, 5-3 screen, or it could be a 5-4 screen. And the first thing we'd love to do is try and score off of this, right? And Jaleel Lord here comes off, sets his man up, probably had a shot there, right? But then just kind of, we let him go play in some space. Right, so that's before we even get to any other part of the play is we're looking to score off that pin down. Here we go again, we threw it across to the other side, right? Here's the pin down, right? And these guys get into some 2-man action off that pin down. Same thing, right? You may have a guy that you want to throw it into, right? He can set that pin down in post. Right now we don't have anything off the pin. Right now we're getting to the next set of the entry, right? So our guard will hit, he cuts through, comes back to the same side. Our 4 or 3 lifts, depending on who we're running it to. On this reversal, we're setting a back screen. Some people down screen this, right, to kind of dig their 5 out. We like to set this back screen. We think back screens are really hard to guard, right? Important detail, our opposite wing, which you'll see helps him later on. He's got to be lifted high, right? Then it makes it really, really hard for his man to help on this back screen. And it makes it easy to get him the ball if he does help. If he sits here in the corner, right, then this low man can help on the back screen, and it's really hard to throw this skip from this wing all the way to the opposite corner, right? But here, right, we get it off the back screen. Same thing. Nothing off the pin down. Reversal, back screen, right? Look at our wing, 13's man over helps on this back screen, and we skip it for a 3. Right, and then this would be all the way through, right? We have nothing off the pin down, we have nothing off the back screen, right? And now after the back screen, we're going into our pinch. So there's the pin down. He doesn't really use that back screen, more uses it more as a flare, right? And then this is what most people call jungle action. These are our pinches.
Sorry, Coach. Can I interrupt you for a second?
Go right ahead.
Is it possible that you could stop your share and then reshare and click the optimize button because it's a little bit choppy on our side?
Gotcha.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See it now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
We're
Yes,
good.
sir.
All right, so again, this is the ending we talked about. Right now, we didn't have the back screen or the flare. Now we're getting into our pinch. Right, and this is something we work on all the time. We do pinch 3-on-0. We do pinch 3-on-3. You know, these guys have heard a million times. You know, move slow to quick, fake one way to go the other way, have great details, wait on the screen, change speeds. Right, so this is, you know, if you know you're going to end in something a lot, then you better get good at the ending or how to execute it. Right, this is an automatic for us. Right, if they go under, we're going to rescreen with the ball screen. Right, and because of our, you know, great spacing, 2-shooter spaced, we're able to hit the roll for the score.
Coach, can you kind of just explain what like a pinch is a little more?
So a pinch is really just, I'll show you when we get there. This alignment right here.
Okay.
Corner, high wing, little off the elbow.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you can ball screen this, right, but most of the time we're hitting and playing, right, and then we have different actions, you know, within our pinches.
Okay. Thanks.
And I can kind of get into, I'll get into some of those actions later. Right, so here's a couple what we call specials, right? So all that right there was literally one play, right? That's just our initial, you know, one cut entry. And, you know, you can score off the pin down. You could pin down and throw it into the post. You can score off the back screen. You can get into a pinch. There's multiple things you could do off the pinch. So when it comes to scouting, if I just yell the name of that, it's really hard to tell your team, oh, they're running this, right? There's a lot to guard within that, right? But now, you know, all of our specials for each entry start the same way and look exactly like the initial entry, right? So here, and this one is actually a call or a read, right? So here's that pin down, right? If that wing decides to reject it, we're popping the 5 and we're an automatic 2-man game, right? So we started the same exact way. There's the pin down, he back cuts it. Now we're in something else. That triggered that. Right, we also have a call for that. This is similar. Right, you come out of a timeout, you ran your basic entry, or you back cut it and ran that action a couple times, right? There he rejects it, right? Last time we might have came off this handoff, right? This time we fake it, and then we got a run out over here playing a 2-man game with these two guys, and we get a back cut for a layup. Right, and that's kind of the deception piece. Same thing here. Right, so most times, here's our initial entry. We're staring down this pin down over here, right? We thought we had a defender on this side that we could take advantage of, that was guarding our shooter that might not be great at guarding in space, right? So now we look back this way, and we play over here and flare them. All right, so all those initial entries just set up your counters. Here's entry number 2, right? Most, you know, 2-guard teams, they call this guard through, right? So now as this guard, right, and this could be a call, or if we just call keys, if this second guard is denied, he back cuts and we're right into this second entry. Right, the first thing we're looking for is this wing off his back screen. Right, so we got reversal, back screen, screen the screener, and we get a 3 off it. Here it is again, right? This isn't a good teaching clip because our wing just kind of jogs through and doesn't even look for the ball. But again, these are things that these guards have worked on a ton. So they shoot the gap, right? We're going to rip and try and make a play. Right, again, we always have an ending, right? And we play through our 5 a lot. right? We call these handbacks or get actions, right? So here he comes off the down screen, he's not open, right? And now you'd say, now what, right? If you didn't have a plan afterwards, and this guy would probably take 17 dribbles and take a bad shot, right? But we have a plan where we're going to our get action. We hit our 5, right? The guy who came off this, not a great handler, right? Really good shooter, really good cutter, really good at finding shots, right? So we're going to bring him off his get action. He throws, he chases, and he finds himself a shot, right? The 5 might be denied. So here's the same exact entry, right? 5's denied. We're going to back cut him. Right? The reversal might be denied. And again, this is all the same thing. Right? We don't throw the reversal. Our guard sets the back screen or the slice. He knows he's coming off regardless. It's either going to be a reversal in the down screen or it's going to be a handoff. Just to keep the action going. And again, he's got nothing, right? He knows he's not a playmaker. He's a scorer. He's a shooter. He's going to go try and chase down another shot. And we want them to hunt these. Here's that handoff again. Wings denied. Go right into a handoff. Right, all part of that same second entry, second cutter. Right, watch our wing here. Right, and again, this is a call or a read. So on this reversal, right, and our guy, this guy was a senior. He did a great job at setting up all his cuts. Right, he slows down. Right, he gets his man to stand up and not ready to guard because he stands up. Right, and now instead of coming off this back screen, he bumps it high road and gets a 3. Same thing here. Bumps it high, has nothing. We go into that get action and he finds himself a shot. Right, here's some specials off of that look exactly the same. Right, so now you guarded our 2 cuts. You're thinking reversal, down screen, right? We ball fake, pivot, and then we back screen our 5 for a layup. Right here, and again, this is all personnel driven, right? We had a undersized 5 who could really, really drive the ball to his right hand, right? So we have a couple counters where we would just give him space to drive it. And again, this looks exactly the same as our entry. He ball fakes. We're just going to open almost like a double, triple gap here for him to drive and make a play. Right, and then this one here. Again, we showed you how we did that handoff. Right, this time we fake the handoff. This is a special. And he continues into what we call a run at. He gets a wide open 3. And again, there's not, it's not a lot to learn because there's really only one guy that did anything different on this play. Right, and then here's the last entry, entry 3 through our 5-man. Could be used a lot with denial teams because not a lot of people will deny the 5, or if they do try and deny everything, most 5s aren't capable of denying in space. So this is our center entry. Right, we hit our 5, everyone exchanges. Right, on this dribble over, we got a reversal. Then we have a back screen there, and then a flare screen. Right, same entry. Now we see that they're overplaying. And again, we have a call for this. This is also a read. On this particular play, I'm pretty sure these guys just read this, right? We're playing Providence. We got out to an early read. Their guys started to get antsy and a little aggressive. And instead of reversing it, we back cut it. And then here's the last piece. Right, nothing off the back screen, nothing off the flare. Well, what are we in here? Right now we're into our pinch. And our point guard makes a great read on this slip. right? Here's some counters or specials. And again, everything looks the same, right? So here's our center entry, right? And these are more calls, right? Now, instead of throwing this reversal like we might have done the 2 times prior, he ball fakes it, hits the 5, and he chases it for a shot, right? His defender probably a little bit asleep. Very similar. He ball fakes, he throws, he chases it. Now we don't give it to him. And then we go into a run out on this side. Right, but again, this whole initial beginning looked exactly like our basic center entry. Except these 2 guys doing something different. Right, and then the last, this couldn't get any simpler. Again, very good right-hand driver, right? We run our center entry. You're used to us throwing a couple passes before we get in the action, right? We just loop right underneath your 5-man, and we get him a strong right-handed drive. Right, same thing with this last one. Not a whole lot to it, right? And this will be our starting point guard this year, Mikey Watkins. Right, same exact entry, but instead of coming off a back screen, we just go flare, flare, give him space, and we lift everybody, and we give him all this room just to go make a play, right? And he's either going to get a layup or some type of shot for somebody else. Right, this is some pinch examples, and again, how do you end? Right, so this is what we consider a pinch, this alignment here. Right, in this particular time, it's a ball screen. Right, we lift this guy out of the corner, we call that our bulldog. Right, the low man tags on the roll where we're going to throw back for a wide open shot. Same thing here, but he's going to catch and rip. And again, these are things that this guy's worked on. He's worked on lifting, bulldog threes, bulldog drives, all part of our player development will be shots we ended up getting out of our offense, right? Here's a pinch. We just call this a follow cut. He just throws and chases it.
Coach,
Yeah.
what's different between the follow cut and the get right there in that last clip? Or is that a get too?
I mean, a get is a follow cut.
Okay.
It just, the get is more not in the traditional like pinch jungle alignment. It could happen anywhere on the floor, really.
Got it.
Right. The follow is we talk about now you're in a 3-person situation. Are you going to throw and follow? Are you going to throw and down screen? Are you going to throw and slip? Now we get more into kind of our pinch terminology. All right, so here instead of following, he goes and screens for our shooter in the corner.
Hey, Coach, can I jump in? I got a question.
Go right ahead.
So first off, my name is Menelik Fernandez. I'm at Fleming College in Canada. Thanks for doing this. This is great.
Great to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. There's a lot here, would be an understatement. And you talked a little bit in the beginning about implementing little bit by little bit over time.
Yep.
What does that look like for you in practice, especially when guys sort of know what you're working on today and they start trying to cheat actions? Do you end up getting ahead of yourself, teaching counters that you wouldn't otherwise be teaching? And like what's your implementation process? Like you talk a lot about skill development and what they're working on, but in practice, are you playing a lot, small-sided games type deal?
A little bit of both, right? We'll go, we'll go some 5-on-0, we'll go some 3-on-0, and then we'll go again with all of this pinch, so we talk about our ending, right? We'll do pinch 3-on-0. We have a pinch shooting where sometimes we'll give them the shots we want. Okay, we're going follows. All right, now we're going ups. All right, now we're going follows, hit the bulldog shot, follows, hit the bulldog drive, right? We do have some repetition stuff. I think there's a time and a place for some both. And then we also have where we just let the ball talk, and we call it kind of pinch freestyle. And, you go do what you want. As far as implementing, the different entries and counters, that could happen. I think in the past I've done it. I think we did a really good job this year. I think now I think I got away from it, and we could have had much more offensive detail come January, February. But our 6 weeks of summer really helped, which I know not everyone's fortunate enough to have. But at the end of that 6 week summer, we had the 3 entries in with all of the simple little counters. All right, if the wing's denied, if we back cut the first pin down. And we just kind of build it week by week. And I think everyone's going to know their own team. I think you're right. You shouldn't move on unless they really have the details down. But some of our details are done not as much in the playing. It might also be in a simple passing drill. We have a drill called ball talks passing that we start every day with, not popping to get open until the ball sees you, and, showing your outside hand and catching on 2 feet, and, what foot are you playing off of? And it's amazing how, some of those things, without ever even running a play, will help you kind of build your offense and your details.
Appreciate. Just a quick follow-up. How often are you interrupting with teaching points, do you find? Like, are you a firm believer of, like, every time something is wrong, stop it and correct it? Or are you letting them kind of play through and then pulling them out one-on-one type deal and keeping flow type deal?
We play through a lot. Again, we don't want to go too long in practice. We want to kind of, we're not going to let a bad habit go without talking about it. But I also don't like to stop and talk for 7 minutes and then the whole, guys are stretching and leaning on the pole and everyone's kind of staring at you like, when are we going to play again? A lot of it's done, I may just kind of, I believe my assistant coach, Phil Gaetano's on here. Hey, Phil, grab Mikey, tell him he didn't, set his cut up, right? And he'll be talking to him as the next, play is going on. And then we'll do it.
Right.
We probably need to do a little bit more of full team film. I say this every year that I'm going to watch more film with my team offensively. But my 2 assistants do such a good job of having individual guys in, kind of a, it's sometimes a little bit less threatening environment, better learning environment, that I don't always feel the need to always do it as a whole. If I really need to prove a point, there'll be 3-4 times a year where we have a couple air out sessions. But for the most part, they're learning on film and sometimes one-on-one, sometimes a group of 2 guys with 1 assistant coach.
Amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Coach, sorry to keep this going. To kind of follow up off those questions, my name's John Tanus. I'm a head men's basketball coach at Division III school, one of the Penn State schools outside of Philadelphia.
Yep.
Obviously, we don't have as much time as you guys do, as you say, those weeks during the summer, and ours are kind of consolidated into a, October 15th. This year will be October 1 start. And then you're looking at games in November. So basically about a month's time that we can work with our guys on the court.
Yeah.
How much at your level, I'm watching these pinch actions, and usually you're hitting that around, 14 seconds and below on the shot clock, and that's giving you guys ample time to make those decisions with those 3 guys playing. You used a phrase of freestyling, right? Like, how much is it determined on who the players are, right? Like, it always seems like, if you get a guy in the corner who's maybe a better player and the top guard in that situation is a better cutter, is that instinct by your discussions with them about their roles of, should that guy be cutting? Should he be setting a down screen to the corner? Although it may be freestyle a little bit and you're trying to get to that handoff or
Sure.
back door, how much is it put on the roles of the players in those 2 positions?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, and some goes unsaid. I think as much as players will kind of give off their macho-ness, for a lack of a better word, guys also end up doing what they're comfortable doing as well. So yes, there's times where we have to grab a guy and be like, come on, man, you got to hunt more shots. Like, just throw and chase and get into some follows. And, some of the discussions also with your 5-man, right? He dictates a lot of it. Like, okay, we might not want to hand it to this guy, right? So fake that handoff and let's play with the next guy. He's a really good screener. He might get the next guy a shot. So some of it is discussion with the individual player, some with the 5, and then some of it is just guys knowing their strengths, right? Guys, some guys don't want any part of the action and they're just going to back cut to get the hell out of there. I think you're going to find a little bit of mix of everything.
And how much of that is communicated prior to the action? Do you guys have calls and verbals for them so they kind of know what it, or is it all just instinctual in reading the defense?
Very instinctual, maybe some game planning. Out of a timeout, we may say, all right, let's get to a pinch and we're going to, we're going to bingo, which when we reject that down screen, we call it a bingo, right? So there are times we're telling them what to do. We may say, these guys switch all these actions, maybe look for a late slip as the top guy, and that's part of game planning. But from there, within those pinch actions, they're figuring a lot of that out on their own. And we do it a lot. I mean, we spend a lot of time working on our pinch stuff. We actually probably, speaking of one of my assistants yesterday, we probably didn't get to them enough with how good we got at them and how much time we spent on them.
And I guess last question with that is how much time is spent in individual small group workouts as opposed to, full team practices?
We, I guess it depends on the time of the year, but one of the things I love that we did this year, and I kind of had to stick to it regardless of what our result was on a Saturday game, is we played Thursday, Saturday. We always had Sundays off, and we always did group work on Mondays within 2 groups. And, it was almost like a second recovery day. We broke a lot of things down within those groups. Our guys maybe still beat up a little bit from Saturday's games. There wasn't a whole lot of emotion involved in that Monday practice. Now it takes a lot to stick to that. I think we were pretty fortunate the year we had. We had a streak of 9 conference wins in a row, so it was probably easy for me to say, oh, these groups are great, they really work. I'd like to see what my temperament would have been if we were 0-9 in those games. I probably want to, but I think over the course of the year, it was almost just like an extra learning day, an extra day on their body, an extra day on their minds. And we broke a lot of that stuff down on Mondays, and then we kind of really got Tuesday. They knew it was going to be 9-10 competitive drills with times and scores and getting after each other. And then they looked forward to that as well. So combination of both, but the Monday groups, I think, were big for us this year.
Well, thank you.
And if you could do some, what we did, I actually got it. I forget the time of the year. I went down and watched Boston College practice, and they had half their team out with, coaches and, maybe some scout team guys or managers guarding and doing different things, while the other half was getting a lift in and a foam roll and a stretch. And then you flip flop. And after an hour and a half, you just got, 45 minutes of stretching and lifting and 45 minutes of learning. And it ends up being a super productive Monday.
Thanks.
All right, so a couple more pinches here. Again, this is what we call up, right? And these are things you can, I know even, Division III with the October 15th, and I don't know what your rules if they can be with their strength coach, but one of the things that I thought was great with Pat Beeline, who we coached against at Lemoyne, who's obviously runs all of his father's stuff. He said to kind of work on the details of some of these cuts, in Division II or just extra work. He would work on these cuts with their strength coach, and they wouldn't even have a ball, and they would maybe come out as part of their warm up and make believe throw to the elbow, set your man up. To some people this might look like, what is this kid doing? We don't want them sprinting all over the place 1,000,000 miles per hour, right? Sometimes if you go too fast, you actually don't take advantage of some of the defensive breakdowns and you miss things. And I even say that sometimes how people play against us on offense with our zone, they're, cutting 5 people in and out of the high post and moving all around. And by the time someone's open, they miss them because they're moving almost too much. And, that's the same thing with these isolated pinch situations. We want to kind of freeze and slow down and make these actions work. Right now Mikey goes from stopped feet to a dead sprint, and it's hard for his man to get back in the play. Right, and I'd say that stuff is more important than any of the action themselves, right? You could say, oh, this stuff's great. We're going to run pinches. We're going to run jungle, right? It's coaching the individual cuts, the details, how to get open, how to change speeds are far more important than the actual, are we going to down screen? Are we going to back screen? What are we going to do out of this? Right, and then this last piece, we call this a bingo. Right, this actually was a call out of a timeout. Right, this stuff's great, especially switching teams. Right, they don't really know to switch. Are we switching that cut? What ends up happening is, both defenders end up going with the cutter a lot of the times, and you get yourself a wide open shot. Here it is again, back cut. Then on that under read, we go right to a ball screen. Bingo, right? Always have an opposite corner guy on a baseline drive or a back cut. And we end up getting a 3 out of this. Right, and then the last piece, and I think this is vital for everybody to have is, right, if your play works, you're either getting an open shot and you're shooting it, right, or you're creating some type of advantage or closeout. And then it's, what are your rules off of penetration, right? So, here's some multiple drives, right? We talk about, I think Popovich calls it the half-second rule. We think a little bit slower than the Spurs, so we give our guys 1 second to either shoot it, move it, drive it. Right, and here's a great possession of just keeping the ball hot. Multiple drives. Right, on any middle penetration, we want our big. Right, he goes from kind of chest to the ball, right, to opening up with his back to the baseline, and then we want him to close his shoulders and get the score. Right, these are cue cuts. We stole this from New Haven. Right, I think I didn't know this. We actually made up our own term. He stole it from Quinnipiac, is why he calls it a cue cut. I thought he called it a cue cut because technically you're making a cue with the rim here if you actually draw this little stick here. So we end a ton with this empty side here and a loaded 3 side over here, right? And we always cut our middle guy on baseline penetration, right? And we ended up getting a ton of these, especially second half of the year. Right, and most defenders just stare at the ball, and you're going to get this cut. Right, and again, it's something they work on. Right, he didn't cut too early. Right, he kind of waited. Right, we call that a keep. Right, the other thing is with penetration is we have no problem with our guys breaking off a play at any time. Right, because we know we have a plan. Right, so we say on your drive, you can either, if you get, we don't want tough twos. Right, so we don't want you taking a wild shot with a chest on you. Right, no advantage, right? But you may jump stop, you may keep, right? There's a big Villanova thing. They keep their dribble and they Steve Nash it underneath the rim here, right? Or regardless of who you are, you can go from penetration to a post up, right? And you may not be posting to score, but at least we keep possession and then we can get some cutting and some other actions going, right? So here, Jaleel Lord, he makes a great read on this late cue cut and we get a layup. Same thing, right? This guy, Dev Jensen, our best shooter, right? And he ended up being our best cutter, right? And he was super effective without ever having to take a dribble because he could always really shoot. And then he got really good at cutting, right? But watch all 5 of their guys just staring at the ball and he just finds, right? And we'll work on this. We do this every shoot around. We'll put a manager, assistant coach in different areas, right? And you're almost like a pinball in here. You're finding a little open area, finding a crack, right, where you can get a layup. Right, and we didn't, this is something I think we want to promote a little bit more in this coming year, right? But we also have a burn cut, which is out of a corner, right? If that guy is staring at the ball and he's high and he's above you on any middle penetration, we'll get this burn cut out of the corner. Right, so there you have, within all that, it's a lot. It's a lot of plays, so to say. But as we all know, it's like, what's the play after the play, right? You don't just run a play. We tell our guys all the time, I could care less if my play works, right? We want to score. So if we can fly it up the floor and find a 2-on-1 in transition for an open three, I'd much rather just get that three than having to run you off, 4 staggers to find probably a harder shot. So however you can find that three, find that layup, but I think having the stuff you run and then having your endings and then having what you're going to do off of penetration, which happens a ton, right? And then you give your guys a little more courage to drive it, right? It's hard to guard. The hardest thing to do nowadays is to guard the dribble, right? A lot of us, some of why we play zone, we don't guard it. We don't have to guard the dribble. And it gives you guys a little bit more confidence to, even non-handlers, right? If I know I can just pulley my way to the block and jump stop, I might get a second cut coming from that cue cut to find somebody a shot. And it gives our guys a little bit more courage to go be aggressive and go make plays. Any questions?
Hey, Coach, I got a question. We kind of talked about it a little. When, what are your, not your exact play calls, obviously, but are you calling those kind of counters more like a football play where it's 3Q, pinch, or is it more like a Michigan, or is it just
more single
read?
More single
name.
Right. If we just call keys, I worked for Paul Cormier at Dartmouth, and he ran something called keys, which was different things keyed other stuff. So if we just said keys, we would be in one of those 3 entries based on what the ball did. Right. So if we said keys and our point guard hit the 5, our whole team is on the same page that we're running that center entry stuff. If we called keys and that second guard back cut, we know we're in guard through. But within that, we also know if the wing's denied, we're going into a handoff, right? So there's kind of all the, a lot of things you can't take everything away because there's always something to keep the play going. Now, I think sometimes that gets us in trouble because we just run offense to run offense and all we're doing is keeping the possession going. But for a year like this year where we kept possessions low, we really dictated tempo with the way we defended. I think at times some of that was needed. We were just kind of managing the game and taking care of the ball and kind of saying, our half court defense is going to be better than your half court defense. And that's kind of what led to a lot of success.
Right. Yeah. And you also, I'm sorry, I forgot.
All good. Anybody else?
Oh yeah. All right. You mentioned that you guys build upon all your counters and stuff throughout the season. Do you guys find in your past seasons that you have more trouble getting good shots and winning games in the beginning of the season since you haven't really built it on some of those things?
Not really, because I don't think defenses are quite yet as good either, and people might have not seen our stuff as much. Yeah, I don't think we've really had that issue. We'll see going. We were fortunate this was our first year in a new league, so no one's seen anything we've done or probably had as much as our calls and things like that. So that may change moving forward, but I don't think. I actually, to be honest with you, and this is more my fault, I thought we executed better at the beginning of the year when we were a little bit more locked in on the details than we did as the year went on. I think I got I stayed with more defensive mentality and super holding guys accountable on the defensive end, but probably have to do a better job, to be honest with you, reminding the guys of those details that make your offense successful as we get into January and February, and not just let them, fly out the window.
Got it. Thanks. You continue unless anyone else has a question.
Sorry, I saw Sean unmute. Sean, do you want to go ahead or?
No, you got it. Go ahead.
Coach, when you initially come across this and decide this is going to be your offense, your go-to, you're going to do it and you're going to do it well.
Yeah.
What did you identify with initially with the system that made it right for you?
I think where it started was with this. We had a kid by the name of Ryan Bolter, who 6'7", could really shoot. Again, we were having trouble finding him shots. And we, I grown to like the two guard stuff. I worked with Pat Beeline at Dartmouth. And you kind of naturally become a fan with it when you're, watching his dad's games 2 nights a week and, talking to him with, you kind of be intrigued by some of the stuff. And it started with, I was a little worried of how we were going to score, right? I took over a team that had 5 seniors, picked second to last in the league. We didn't know really where our scoring was going to come from, but I knew we had this 6'7" guy that could really shoot it. So we kind of found ways within the two guard to help him initially. And then from there, it just kind of grew. And again, I just like that there's a little bit of everything, right? I love the cutting. I love the spacing. I think a defense would love for you to just stand around and watch one guy come off a ball screen and then hope he tries to make a play, right? And I think there's a time and a place for that. I mean, if you watch us in the last 4 minutes of a game, we put the ball in our best players' hands and we ball screen them and let's go. We're going to get stops and we're going to put the ball in our best players' hands. But the first 35 minutes, we might run a lot more of this two guard stuff.
Coach, my name's Sean Jones. I'm assistant coach at Merrimack College down in Tennessee, Division III. You talked a little bit about what you do as far as your penetration reads with your post.
Yeah.
Same side, middle drive. What are the other reads for your post on those drives, if he's on the back side or if it's baseline?
So baseline, he wants to get rim. If he's opposite baseline, he wants to run right to the front of the rim. Right. If he's in the post, which hasn't happened a whole lot for us, he's going to just lift up the lane line. Right. We have at times, I know a lot of, two guard people, they call it a Canada cut. They actually loop him out of the post and almost like run behind the ball for a shot or to kind of continue some offense. And then a lot of times, because of our 5 is on the perimeter a lot of times he's just running to that front of the rim because he's, let's say let's say we hit a wing and the defense was overplaying, and before we even got into anything, he just rips and drives it where our guy's standing at the nail at the middle of the foul line. So he's just going to kind of carve to the front of the rim. So a lot of it is rim running. We just talk about finding cracks. I think that's such a unique skill for bigs that can be taught. Some guys have an unbelievable knack for it, right? You'll, in recruiting, sometimes they'll say, well, what's the big deal? All that guy does is make layups. Well, he's got to find those layups, right? How many big guys or girls do we have that they have no idea where the ball is and the ball gets put on the floor and their man's helping and they're in no man's land, like behind the backboard with not giving the guy an outlet. And, both our 5s were great at it. Our starter was 6'4.5", and he played high school with our starting point guard. And the way they played off each other, to be honest, a lot of it was role reversal, right? We would post our point guard, our 5 would start opposite, and he would just play off our point. If he rolled baseline, he'd wheel with him to the front of the rim. If our point guard went to work and wheeled middle, then our 5 would actually relocate, kind of like dribble drive stuff. He would loop under all the way to the other side, and his man would have no idea where he was. So I think it's whatever you want to teach, I think talking about like going where the defense isn't is the simplest way to get these bigs to go, light bulb. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Go where the defense isn't, and can my teammate get me the ball? Right. Same thing for shooters, right? How many shooters do we all have that have no idea when to find that shot? And it's like almost such a waste of talent. Like, that's great. You can drill it. Well, we just came off a ball screen in a pinch and your man tagged and you're still sitting in the corner and we have no idea how to get you the ball, right? So talk about, finding windows. Where can you find a shot? I think would be the best way to teach it in simplest terms. Any other questions? I can, if people aren't bored, I can get into some 2-3.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all here for, actually.
$39.99 is the video on Championship Productions. I get my son needs some break.
I'll buy that today, actually.
No, I'm joking. Here we go. We're all access here. We have nothing to hide. Am I still sharing?
No, not right now.
All right, let me go back to the share.
Did you optimize it?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So I got, I'll kind of zip through this, and I got some practice footage I can show you. And again, I think I was way more ahead of the why that I wanted to do this, more so than what I wanted to do on offense. And this was why, right? And the Northeast 10 was a league that I played in, and then I was an assistant coach in for 4 years, and then came back as a head coach and was pretty familiar with the league. A lot of the coaches were the same. Even programs where the head coach might not have been the same. His assistant might have got the job, years later. So a lot of similar system and ways of playing, and it's a super high skilled league. I tell people all the time, it's the best shooting league in the country, and it's not even close. If you go and look, I think we were shot like 36 or 37% from three as a team our last year in the league, and I think we were 9th or 10th out of 15, 16 teams. Right, that would be first or second in a lot of even Division I leagues. So at first, I think when people hear zone, they think you're crazy that you're going to try and play zone in the Northeast 10 with shooters everywhere. And my thought process was the complete opposite. These are established programs. A lot of them run motion, and they're used to getting shots from certain areas. Let's go in and try and mess up their rhythm and have them try and find shots other ways. And so number one is want it to be different. People don't see it a lot, and people's stats are their stats against 90% man-to-man, right? So that that 42% shooter from three, he's a 42% shooter from three against man-to-man. One of the things it's done over the years is it does a great job of limiting other teams' best players. Some of them almost get bored and can't, they almost get, we're not running these 4 plays that usually get ran for me in man, and where's my ISO, and where's this screen I usually come off of, and we've been able to really limit other teams' best players within the defense. I believe it's our best defense, and we're playing against your second best offense, right? We all put it off, right? I talk about, having a checklist of when we put in those entries and when we guard different things. Being someone that coaches zone, it takes me forever to put in zone offense. Right, I almost have to look at previous year's practice plans or get to our first scrimmage, and I go, oh shit, we don't have a baseline out about, or we don't have a zone offense in. So I think, naturally, we're playing against your second best offense. We're forcing you to take the shots that you don't work on a whole lot anymore, and that most coaches don't want you to take. Right, so in the world of analytics, nobody wants their teams taking 2-point shots anymore. Especially tough ones. right? So you'll see some of our emphasis in a later slide. We're running you off the 3. We naturally have built-in help with our 5-man. There's not a whole lot of, is our low man the opposite corner? Is he out to lunch and he's asleep and he's not going to rotate and we're going to give up a layup? We don't give up any just baseline drive or middle drive for layup because our 5-man is naturally there as the help. It allows us to focus on us. We prep for a day and a half, right? We don't even talk about, we may guard some actions without our team knowing it, but we don't even talk about an opposing team's player or play until the day before the game. And then we'll do it again the next morning in a shoot around. So they see it for a day and a half. We're getting you to do most, the skill you work on the least. And the last thing one of our players wants to do is pass, right? It's a lot of passing, right? You got to beat it with passing. And, there's some possessions that, there's 12, 13, 14 passes. And with our activity and our active hands and the way we promote deflections, there's a good chance that after that 12th pass that we're going to get a hand on one of those passes. And then I think late game, people really struggle against it. It's, what's your go-to play? I think every one of us know, right, this is what we're doing. Here's our guy, here's our 2 guys we want to put in action against man. This is our bread and butter. I don't know how many people have a true bread and butter, zone play if someone out of nowhere switches to zone late game. And we were 7-2 in games decided by 4 points or less this year, and 24-11 over the last 4 years, right? And I think, one, we had a really good closer in Javaris Hayes on both sides, right? He'd come up with he'd make big plays and make big pass plays, and he'd also get his hands on basketballs and get steals. So it always helps to have good players, obviously. But we always were comfortable being in that late game, right? Like that Northwestern game with 4 minutes to go. They might have been a Big Ten team. They had 3 freshmen on the floor. We had guys on the floor who have played in the same system on both sides for 3-4 years, and they were very comfortable just executing down the stretch. All right, here's some myth busters, right? You can only be successful playing zone with great length, right? Does it help? Of course, but it's not an end all be all, right? And yes, our 2 guards, are they lengthy wingspan wise? Yes, one's 5'10" with a 6'4" wingspan, the other one's 5'11" with a 6'5" wingspan, but they're still 5'10" and 5'11", right? So our starting lineup was 5'10", 5'11", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Myth 2, I think people say, there's I wouldn't say no, but much less accountability, right? It's so much easier to watch a film and say, you're not guarding anybody. You can't keep that guy in front of you. Where were you? You weren't in the gap. We always know whose fault it is. And to be honest with you, even probably about halfway through our guys' freshman year, they know exactly whose fault it is as well. We keep 2 things, right? We have one thing we call MC points, which is, kind of deflections and steals and blocks and charges. That shows our players' activity level. But we also keep track of how the other team scores, and that's what action they scored on and whose fault it is. And, it's amazing. These guys know, like all of a sudden there's a quick wing to top reversal, and our opposite guard didn't come out with high hands and they drill a 3 and they look right at me and put their hand up and telling me my bad, because they know the slides and they know it's their fault. And then myth number 3, it's tough to beat a really good shooting team. We actually love playing really good shooting teams, right? We limit 3-point attempts, and it's really hard to find shots. So if that's what you hang your hat on is the 3, we're making you beat us in some other way. Right. And if you look at these numbers, these are 5, traditional zone teams across the country. And, we give up 15.5 3-point attempts a game, which is insane, right? Syracuse gives up 28, Eastern Michigan 25.5, and so on and so on. And, I think some of that is, Syracuse actually does have a really good 3-point percentage defense. I think they're okay with, their two guards are 6'4" through 6'6", and they'll give up a 30-foot three, contested by a 6'5" guy. We don't have that luxury, so we just talk about don't letting guys shoot.
Coach, to add on to that, since I'm still playing, it is a lot harder to shoot a three when the pass is coming from the top or the wing rather than when it's coming from the paint off a drive. So
Yep.
if you're not letting them get in the paint, it's a lot harder to get a catch and shoot three.
Yeah, and we'll show, and because we know it is going to get in the paint, we call punctures. Anytime it goes to the high post, the short corner, or a drive, we work on guarding punctures every single day. So, we never rally to the ball, or we almost never have two guys on the ball, right? So when you drive it and you expect us to collapse, like most man, and you're going to zip it to the opposite corner for a three, we're trying to run exactly where we think that next pass is going. So we really fan out on any punctures. Right, here's our mindset. Right, number one, where we talk about take their ball. We're going after their basketball. We're going for deflections, steals. We end up probably fouling a little bit more than I'd like because of our aggressiveness. Especially early in practice, our freshmen run through guys when they go to take threes and foul guys on threes all the time early on because we have it embedded in them, so much that we don't want you giving up a three. Right, so take their ball. No threes, no uncontested layup, and then force tough twos, right? And a tough two is a floater, not a rhythm pull up. I think it's one of the things we've gotten so much better at is our overall field goal percentage defense. I think my first and second year, we'd run you off a three, and then we would just stare at the guy, and he'd go into a rhythm pull up or, a drop off for a layup. Now we're always seeing the next play, run that next guy at someone. We don't want anybody taking a uncontested layup or an uncontested two. And then we talk about, we have a big sign in our locker room that says there's a major difference between contesting a shot and taking a shot away. And if I went back and I took our two best shooters 2 years ago and I watched every single one of their 3-point makes, and every single one of their 3-point makes was contested. Right, it's rare that guys don't have some sort of contest on a three. You don't just get wide open shots. So our thing is, if good players are making contested threes, we don't even want to give them a shot to get that three up. Here's just some numbers. Right, we were 90.3 defensive efficiency, 27. So we turned people over 27% of their possessions. Right. 3-point percentage, steal percentage, right? Led the conference in all these numbers, playing our zone. If you look at our steals, right, almost 3 more than second. 3-point field goal, and this was kind of the beauty of it this year. Not only did we limit the attempts, if you look how crazy this is, 271 3-point attempts in 18 games, right? The next closest was 358. Right. But we also, still made them tough to make. And, we talk about what are you doing to make that guy miss? If you can't take it away, you got to do something to make him miss. Again, field goal percentage. So this was kind of across the board. Right. And before I show some film, here's our rules. And these zone rules, they override, any type of play the other team's running, any rotation, any basic slide. 5 guys move on the flight of the ball, similar to man. If the ball moves, we have 5 guys moving. Hands never drop below your waist, right? We want to, first day we'll show what the zone looks like with everybody's hands at their waist. And then everybody put, then you have 10 arms and 10 hands all over the place, and it looks a lot different. Don't get screened, right? You don't have help on a ball screen. You don't have a hedge, right? Don't get screened. See the next play. And then nobody shoots where they catch, right? And that one is huge, right? Everybody can make a rhythm shot. That goes for high post, short corner, drop offs, right? What are you doing to make that guy do something different than just catch and shoot it, Any questions? I got a little bit of practice film that I can kind of just go through the basic slides, and then I could take some questions on a little bit more of the details.
Coach, I got a question. How are you guys getting your steals? Is it because you're running guys off the line on the catch, they're putting it to the floor, and during your rotation, maybe on a bad pass, or where are you seeing a lot of your steals come from?
You know what? So number one, we did have the best stealer in the history of college basketball. So he broke the record this year, over 450 steals, most ever Division I, II, or III, right? So I'm not naive to think that he wasn't a big reason for it. But we also had the guy who was second in the league in steals. So I think, some of it was player driven and some system driven. But we, which I have, we'll see if I can get to it. We have built-in steals that we talk about. Some of it is, yes, the speeding people up, the deflections. Some of it is just, we almost know what that next play is going to be. So, for instance, if you hit, what everyone tells their coach, everyone tells their players when it hits the high post, right? Look down the floor, you're maybe thinking shot, look down, and then look opposite, right? Well, our forward is trying to run right through that down passing lane, and he's going to steal that drop off. A steal we get a ton is you hit the short corner, everybody in the country is diving their high post guy to the front of the rim. And sometimes they just kind of put it on the floor there and it's up for grabs. Will we work on, I'll show you in some of our practice clips, some of it you'll think is almost goofy because, sometimes we start at a slow speed. We're practicing, almost like football, we're practicing intercepting the ball or stealing the ball. And, we counted about, 15 to 20 just true built-in steals. If you just, we tell our guys all the time, just run where we're telling you to run and the other team will throw you the ball.
Coach, we just an update. We have 45 minutes left, so I don't know how much you have to present, but we can try to get through that and then questions.
Got it. I can easily handle that. All right, so here's some practice stuff. Right, and I love this. So this first clip, there's a difference between contesting a shot and taking a shot away. Right, these clips are good. This is kind of what I had access to here at home. A lot of these clips are super early, so it's the basics. And this is actually two freshmen, and they give up a three. Right, and my two assistants. The toughest opponent we play against all year is our scout team because they kind of know the kind of some holes and some places to find shots, and they really, challenge our guys. And they also have no pressure on them, as assistant coaches or red shirts or walk-ons, that they just let it fly, right? So, but if you look here, again, this is my assistant coach who's now 35, 36 years old, but he also made 83s at 42% as a player at Merrimack. And the contest really, right? If I let this run, I guarantee you something was said to this guy and he never again, like you're not allowed to look at the bench and say, I contested that, right? Everyone's like, if you're not, the only way you wouldn't contest is if you just got shot by a sniper and you were laid on the floor. So that's at the least you can do. We don't want contests. We want you taking shots away. Right, so here is, we start every single practice with what we call perfect defense. Stole this, we went and watched a Celtics practice, and I think they were playing the Sixers. It might have even been a preseason game, and they came out before they even stretched is what we do. And it gets our guys thinking defensively right away. And Coach Stevens said, all right, we're going, our perfect defense segment. We're going to go, 65, 70% speed, but 100% positioning and 100% talking. And this is where we build it. We'll start with our basic slides. Anytime, if we're playing an opponent, the first time they'll see their action is within our perfect defense when we're, it's not a walk through, it's more of a jog through. Anytime we introduce, how to guard something new, a puncture, a ball screen, a double high post, we always start by perfect defense, right? But here's just the basic slides, right? Top to wing pass. Our forwards are, so we straddle this volleyball line here, right? Our wings are responsible for that first three in front of them, right? And they're going outside hand, outside foot. And their terminology is no shot, no corner. So they're taking away the shot, right? The timing of that bump is huge. We talk about like an old school boxer almost step into their foot space so they can't step into a shot, right? And now you're taking away shot, and then you're taking away the corner pass by bumping 2 hands high outside the three. At that same time, right? This isn't traditional where we're waiting for him to say bump. Our guard is sprinting below the ball to take away any direct pass to the elbow. If it goes there, it's got to be a lob. Or the only thing left this guy really can do is put the ball on the floor middle, and he'd be driving it right to where our guard's running, right? So we go no shot, no corner. We're going out, right? The goalie has the easiest job. He just always keeps his chest on the ball. So when the ball's on the wing, he probably has his left foot on that block. Opposite guard has a hand in front of the high post with his foot pointed at wherever this top of the key guy is, because that is a no-no. You're not giving up this top of the key three. We'll never break the plane of this free throw line to take away the high post, right? We feel if he rolls off here and he catches it in this kind of gray area, we're fine. Our five is going to be right on top of you. There's not a whole lot of space to play, right? So, and if we feel like if we break this plane, we can't ask our guy to take away the high post and take away the top of the key three, right? So we're going to be big, long, hands out. We're not going to let you throw it to the elbow, but if you creep off it, then go ahead. Opposite forward, we're not like man-to-man. He's not center line because we feel like he wouldn't be able to get out on this skip, right? Our five, again, is already built in low. He's got his left foot on this block, right? Pass from wing to top, right? So we start in that 2-guard front. After that, we're never again in a 2-guard front. Right now, it's almost 1-3-1-ish, right? So on a wing to top pass, you're flying out. The first thing you do is throw your 2 hands up. Anytime you're on your way out, hands are up. Anytime you're making your way in or down, we say hands out, kind of in a passing lane, try and get a piece of any pass. Guard on the ball, he's now sprinting in to take away the high post. He will not cross to this side of the floor. Again, if you leave and go to this elbow, then we're going to let you have it. It's a tough area to throw to the other side of the floor, and we already know where we're going if you throw it there, right? Anytime the ball's in the middle of the floor, your forwards are yelling, "I'm home," and they're both back up high, right? That doesn't matter if it's we say if it's dribbled, kicked, batted, when that ball lands up top, you guys better be home, right? Some good point guards might go wing, back to top. They might look off to this wing and throw it right back to the same wing for a 3. It's why, 5 guys move on the flight of the ball. We're positioned based on where the ball is, right? We're not going for ball fakes. That ball didn't move. We're back home. You could throw it side to side all day long, and we're going to be right back there contesting that 3. To this side, no shot, no corner, below and out, opposite forward help, opposite guard has the high post. If you go, our first step is always out, right? No shot, no corner, and then we bump in if you do not have a corner, right? So it's, you're almost moving in triangles, all of these guys. And, we just think it's wasted if there's no corner. We want you almost closer to your next responsibility. So if this thing goes to the high post now and you're already creeped in, it's really easy for you to sit on top of this short corner guy. First again, right, and now we're getting, and if we can get a team to just go side to side to side to side, we'll go into these basic slides all day. Any questions on the basic slides?
Coach, well, first of all, can you mute the video? And second of all, since it wasn't muted, what are you guys saying? Like, is one of your opposite guard, is he saying I got high post? You know, what are you guys saying, like, communication wise?
Hold on one second.
Yeah, it's just in that. Yeah, there you go. Press on the, go to the, yeah, and then the volume next to the text, I think.
Oh no, that's not right.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so what I was saying is, on any, I'll go through this again very quickly. So our forward is saying no shot, no corner. He's taking away point to wing shot, and then he's taking away any corner pass with the way he bumps, right? As a guard, right? And we are, I'm almost a lot more big on talking with our young guys. Outside of the stuff that your team needs you for to communicate, right? Like our five is talking about if you have a corner or not. But some of the stuff initially, like no shot, no corner, as a guard, you literally either have the ball or you have the high post, right? And I think my thing to them is, although some of that just might be noise, right? Like, no shit, I got ball, I got ball, I got ball. But I said you'd really have to be a bad person to say you're doing something and not actually doing it, right? So if you're saying I got high post, you're probably going to have the high post. If you're saying I got ball, you probably have your responsibility. If you're saying no shot, no corner, you're probably not going to give up a shot or a corner. So we talk about, almost say what you're doing, especially early on. You're probably going to do it, right? This guy's saying I got help, right? And then as it comes back to the top, I got ball, I got ball, I got ball. I got high, I got high, I got high. Forwards are always saying, I'm home, right? If you're reminding yourself I'm home, you're not going to be messing around down here with this short corner guy and giving up a quick reversal three, right? And what I don't know if you could hear me, I said anytime the ball's up top, you got to be home, right? Point to wing threes are 195% on the forwards. That's not the guard's responsibility. Any questions?
Good.
All right, so now we get into punctures, right? If we keep 5-5, we will for as long as we can, but we know at some point that this zone is going to get punctured. And again, a puncture for us is high post, short corner, or a drive, right? That piece there was super important because of our high hands, right? Any puncture, we want that to be lobbed because you're moving on the flight and you have to get to your designated area on a puncture. If this thing gets zipped in and number one is on his way out to his responsibility, after the guy's already caught it, it's going to be really hard for him to change direction, right? So if you get to your spots on the lob, when he catches, everyone should almost be at their spots, right? And our rule on a high post touch is normally we have a box drawn here right off the elbow for our guards to get to. And then our forwards' first step is down. So we say your forwards, your first step is down. Guards, your first step is out, right? And from there, we feel like we have everything covered if it was a quick pass to anywhere, right? Even if this guy was at his box, right? People will say, well, what if they just throw it to the top? Well, he's going to be, if he's here on the flight, he's going to get here running this guy off the line, right? Now, as we get better and the ball gets held in there longer, then it becomes more of a matchup. So this this forward knows he has the short corner. Right away, he's going to point to his partner that he's got him. And what would happen then would be, it's almost like a game of telephone. This forward would tell this guard, bump up, bump up, bump up. And then we would literally be matched up man. This opposite forward would have the short corner. This guy would bump up and have this wing. This guard would bump up to the top. And this guard would make his way out, and he would end up having this guy, right? Our body position's a little bit different. We turn, our butts are almost a half court / sideline, so we could see everything that's going on, right? Anytime 2 passes out of a puncture, everybody's got to be back home to their responsibility, right? So this ball came out, right? Now he's got ball. Well, this guard's got to get to the high post, right? Guys sometimes don't realize how much effort and activity that the zone is. And in the first week, that thing gets zipped out, and a young guard will still be standing over here. And then 2 passes later, his responsibility is giving up a shot, right? We're always reacting on that flight of the ball. Right, so that's high post. This is short corner. Right, so it varies year to year. Sometimes it varies during the year. Sometimes it varies based on scouting. In this situation, we're trapping it. We've gotten away from the trap a little bit because we've created enough turnovers otherwise that we didn't feel the need for the short corner trap, right? So right now we're in a short corner trap. It's a trap with the 5 in the ball side wing. The opposite forward has the rim. The opposite guard is basically getting to this box area, right? And the ball side guard has ball side. If we were in a short corner stay situation where we're not trapping it, opposite forward still has rim. Everyone's always going to send a cutter. And then this forward would have wing. This guard would have top. This opposite guard would be matched up. We'd almost be matched up 3 for 3. And it aligns perfect. People will try and throw it to the short corner to throw it back out, right? And we don't move, right? We're almost just stationed here. You know, we tell our guards, don't ever go anywhere near the paint. And they do a good job of just playing free safety center field out here, taking away threes, you know, either stealing or running guys off the line on any throw out. And then here's the third puncture. You're going to naturally sometimes, if you lose sight and your footwork isn't great, you may lose sight of this guy. Right, the way we're running guys off the line, we know there's going to be dribble penetration, right? So here's a lane line drive. We don't help ball side, right? So he stays attached. He may bluff at it and get home. Our 5 is going to step up late and take the ball. We say when he jumps, you jump to contest, right? We get a lot of charges. We get a lot of just contested floaters. Opposite forward has low man, no matter where he is. Sometimes this guy will kind of short roll over to this side, and we'll go with him. And then the steal we get a ton is this one that this coach throws. Drive the opposite, and our opposite guard is just hanging out there. Here you'll see it with Here's a little bit of positional work. And again, right, we hit that short corner. Our guards are out. We're out again. Right, we talk about the ball has eyes, right? If the ball can't see you, right, if the ball's facing you, we're closer, you know, to the shooter. If that ball can't see you, like, and we get a ton of steals this way, we're going to try and get it back after, right? And then as he turns, if we can't get the steal, we're back out. Right, and then while that's going on, forwards. working on their footwork, high post, right? A lot of people forcing these passes behind. Right, and then here's just some goalie work, right? They're constantly guarding the ball. Close out. Talk about standing that middle up. Right, and then this is a lot of people do 7 versus 5. We added a guy. We make it 8 versus 5. And we go point, wing, wing, corner, corner, high post, and both short corners. And this is where we develop a lot of our effort from. And it's, you know, we talk about if you're flying around and you're in perfect positioning, it doesn't matter how many players are out there on the floor. And we also, you know, a lot of these 8 versus 5 possessions end with a deflection. It also shows our team how important they are, right? They could have 13 offensive players. You know, if you get a piece of the basketball and we get on the floor and get it, it's our ball anyway, regardless of how many offensive players are out there on the floor.
Coach, can I jump in?
Go right ahead.
My name is Alicia. I'm an assistant men's basketball coach at Bethel University in St. Paul. And I have watched your the $40 video on championship a couple of times, which is great. Couple questions I have is, so when the ball goes into the high post and then the goalie is consuming him, what's your teaching point for the forwards? Are they supposed to like get down and get into their legs, or how do you get positioning there? What's your teaching point with your forwards on defense?
Yeah, so they both are down. You know, ideally, like I said, ideally that thing went in on a lob where it's kind of clear who has the short corner.
Okay.
Right? My first year, we tried to match up and talk like before it went in, like, hey, short corner my side, you know, if it goes in, I'm down. And we, you know, the first time we go to the high post, well, that short corner would relocate on the flight of the ball, and we'd give up literally a 1-on-0 layup because of just trying to talk it out before it actually went in. So that's why now we send both guys down, but you then can call your teammate off. And then to answer more particularly your question, yeah, we want to be down there in a physical manner. Like if it's, you know, if the ball has already left their hands, like we talk about just run right through the passing lane. But if not, we're almost like running, like you said, we want to stay above the ball with a hand out, but you're kind of running into their legs a little bit. And sometimes even on a catch, if someone's kind of into your legs, you're going to cough that thing up.
Sure.
And then there's other times where, if you could kind of picture this, it goes in, let's say it goes in really quick from the wing. And, you know, that's a wall up we work on. Sometimes that opposite forward has no choice but to come all the way to the other side of the floor and get a wall up, or if he's in the paint, you know, we call them Hibberts, like Roy Hibbert from Georgetown started doing them. You know, we work on literally just jumping straight up in the air and trying to make that guy miss. So there's a couple different situations based on where the guy is and how quick it goes in. But yeah, I think the big thing would be just get down there in a hurry, get down there with some force, right? You can't, you got to almost be ready. Like you got to think it's going there on your way down and be ready for a collision or some force or some, you know, some type of combat and try and win that war down there.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was watching a lot of the film on Synergy, a lot of clips and stuff, and kind of seeing that and watching those forwards. And then my other question would be, what do you do when your goalie gets, like when their offensive big kind of tries to consume or seal your goalie? Like how do you defend penetration when he's kind of gets consumed? I saw that sometimes.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So that's where it's you can't get, we say don't get in wrestling matches. You got to like stay even with the post, you know, fight to get around. You almost got to always figure out a way to give yourself some freedom of movement. But you're almost, and that's why we say you go where you go based on where the ball is. So if the ball's on the wing, we want you, bottom foot on the block. If there's someone trying to post you there, you almost got to shrug that off, and you got to fight for your space to be in your more your help zone spot versus wrestling with the post. The only thing we really don't want is like 2 feet catches, an inch from the rim. Outside of that, we work on, we'll pull the chair on a guy, we'll get around him. But you're right, there are times if there's especially in some of our up games, you're playing Nate Watson from Providence, and he's, 6'10", 290 pounds against, our 6'4" center. And it's really hard not to get caught up in a wrestling match there and still get to your help responsibilities. But, that's something we work on with those guys. It's probably the toughest thing, physically that they actually have to do is kind of shrug those post-ups off and get to those responsibility.
All right,
Thanks.
Coach, we're down to 20 minutes, so I'd ask if you could just go through the rest of the clips just fully, and
so
then go to questions after.
Yeah, this is kind of really it. I mean, just our 8 verse 5. The other thing that happens in this drill, because there are always corners, we do what we call a fire. So if that ball does get to the corner, we're not just giving you a wide open corner 3. Our 5-man is flying out, and then we're rotating from the backside. And our 5's only responsibility is not to let this guy shoot a 3. And our young, this guy does a great job on this. Right, and that again, some of those steals we got were the rotations we worked on. Right, it goes to the high post, try and steal that high low. There's only so many places on the floor the ball could go, so we kind of work on all those rotations daily, and all those built-in steals. It's almost so we lost our first game of the year to Maine, by 20, and then we beat Northwestern 2 days later. And we were so tentative on all those drops. I mean, we were giving up like high lows and just simple stuff that we've guarded every day. And literally all we did before we left for Northwestern is we didn't even change. Everyone stayed in their sweats, and we worked on literally just dropping with force and running through passing lanes. And, if you're going to go, you got to go. This isn't a tentative defense. So from that point on, it was really good for us.
Coach, we had a couple questions from like the Google form. First one, how do you avoid screens in the zone? Like you said earlier.
You really, it's the personal responsibility to honestly not get screened. And I know it sounds, let me see if I could find a clip for you. Let's see.
You could just
anyway. So they're literally. I mean, we tell our guards, we're like, here 2 things. One, I think the screening against zone is so much more predictable. right? So everyone tries to, set some sort of screen on your 5-man and then sneak someone behind them. And you see it, they got 3 guys stacked on the right block, and everyone in the world knows that you're coming to screen our 5, including our 5. And again, he's just shrugging that off and getting over it, getting under it by any means necessary. Same thing with ball screens. I mean, it's clear as day. It's not like in man where you can, some people now screen into a ball screen, or you set a flare screen, then go ball screen to kind of loosen up that hedge. Half the time, it's just a guy standing there, right? And it's why we our guards are super aggressive. And most of the time, we like to go under, or we say whip it, where you're tight under. Sometimes we'll spin under it. Anyway, just to, we make the guy use it. And then we just meet him on the other side, to be honest with you. And it's not, I get the ball screen question a lot. And then it doesn't, ball screens don't ever hurt us. Because when you ball screen the zone, it doesn't cause any rotation, right? So you ball screen versus man to get 2 guys on the ball and force some sort of like weak side rotation or who's tagging. Well, if you picture our zone and you're going to ball screen one guard, right? As long as he doesn't just legitimately pass out on the screen and you just take a shot right off it, which most guys won't take or make anyway, you're just kind of dribbling into our next guy's area. You're rolling into our 5-man. The ball's in the middle of the floor, so our 2 forwards are up. So if you picked and pop and threw it back, to us, all that is a point to wing pass. If you try to overload the other side and have a wing in the corner, which is everyone tries to do, right? Well, our forwards just going no shot, no corner. So the ball screen, unlike it does versus man, it doesn't get us in any sort of rotation. We just kind of play our areas.
Got it. Coach Mike, you have a question?
Joe, hey, Mike Blaine. Just got a quick question for you, man. Your pickup point. I know you guys did a good job, obviously being tight on the ball. But is there something? Are you telling your guys when when they're bringing the ball down? Are you telling your guys toes to the arc, 2 heels over, 1 up, 1 over, 1 under? At what point are you picking up? I know you guys do a great job contesting threes. At what point are you picking up perimeter guys to challenge and take no shot?
The heels on the 3. So they're heels on the 3. They always start together. This is actually a Syracuse thing that I love. If you have the time to do it, we actually have our 2 guards kind of slap 5, almost saying like, let's go. We're ready to go. Like, let's start this defensive possession. That I love that, because it's like, one guy might be mad at a call from the play before or missed a shot, or kind of, those 2 guards are so important in their activity level. It's almost like, all right, I got you. Let's go. Let's go. It's time to play some defense. If there is a guy that we think may just come across half court, and I guess in today's day, like Dame Lillard did, we'll kind of have a feel for that and try and run a guy at him. But you got to be pretty ballsy to just come across the court and shoot it. You better make it, or most of the time you're getting subbed out. So we're not as concerned with that, like, come over half court, shoot it. Now, once it gets moving, Mike, we'll go NBA 3. So we call that our ring. We actually, early in the year, we kind of make like almost a big square out to the NBA 3. And we just say, we're going to really attack you once you get within our like ring. But that's, once it gets moving, right, that we'll close out all the way out to the NBA 3. If you kind of retreat dribble, we'll kind of back up. Again, this is something you kind of learn from trial and error. I used to think it was like tougher and like more aggressive to run and pick that guy up near half court, and there's way too much space behind you.
Right.
You can never get anywhere on punctures. Yeah. Right. So even when we do make that hard closeout on the top of the key, we then like pop back a step. We found that, especially with our 5'10" guards, if we kind of got into you and under the ball, they would almost just, if you could picture it, just kind of zip it over our heads.
Yeah.
So we're like at you, and then we pop back, and we're almost kind of doing jumping jacks. I mean, any man-to-man, like getting a stance coach would think I'm the worst coach in the world, the way our posture is on the ball after we take away the shot.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
Cool. One person asked, what do you value in recruiting?
Cool. That's so we first off, we don't recruit a lot of guys. We're a little bit different. You know, you go look at our verbal commits page, you won't see a whole lot of offers out there. We, you know, look for guys to fit our system, right? We kind of have a checklist of, all right, we need guards this year, we need wings, we need a goalie. With that being said, we would never deviate. If there's a really good player out there we think we can get, we'd make it work. But I think it's different for each position. You know, it's like we need, if you're not going to have length as a guard, like you got to be, we're bringing in a smaller guard, but he is super athletic, can really close ground. I think overall is and hate to be total coach speak here, is we totally vent the person. You know, we talk about, it's why we're so particular. You know, we talk to your guidance counselor, we talk to your principal, we talk to your coach, we talk to your opposing coaches, and we kind of fully vet, and we want, you know, the good person. But then there's no like particular skill set. You know, I think that's what I think is the beauty of the two guard and the zone, is you can take different types of players. You know, we have a 4-man that could really shoot it, and we have another guy that's kind of more of a driver. And again, we'll figure out a way to make both of them work. But I think as long as that person is, you know, good teammate, obviously has to be good enough skill wise. But we don't, I think because of having the system, we could kind of just fill in the gaps year in and year out.
Got it. Coach Troy, you could go.
Coach David Choi here from Seattle, Washington. With, you know, on the topic of recruiting, with your recent success, congrats on winning the NEC. Have you?
Coach, you muted yourself by accident.
Have you expanded your recruiting map beyond the Northeast now, with all the success?
We have, and that's a combination of success and probably some more dollars to do it. But I love going out of region, to be honest with you. You know, in our incoming class, we have you know, a kid from Chicago, we have a kid from Long Island, and then we have a kid from DC area, DMV. And you know, we'll take a guy from anyone. We're on a Zoom. My assistant is on a Zoom right now with a kid from Israel that I'm going to hop on with as soon as I'm done with this. So I think it's, I think the success has helped a little too. You know, I think people, if they didn't know who we are, it's usually easy to like show that success that we've had. But we don't pigeonhole ourselves to any certain area. You know, as a Division II, we are pretty Northeast based. I'm a New Jersey guy. A lot of our roster is New Jersey. I think that some of that is the depth of it. I think a lot of those guys got missed. But I got to remind myself that we won a lot of games with those guys, and there's not much difference between that low Division I or mid Division I and really good Division II players. So I don't want to now get greedy and say, oh, we need a 3-star guy, or, you know, we beat teams that had those 3-star guys that might not be bought into the system.
Awesome. Unless anyone else has a question, you go ahead now, but if not, I have 2 questions, and then we could let you get to that recruiting meeting.
Awesome. What do you got?
All right. So 2 questions. One, you kind of mentioned Billy Donovan was one of your guys that you looked up to, Coach Beeline. Like, who are your mentors that that you knew and didn't know that you kind of looked at to help you get you?
You know, I think naturally it's going to be people that you worked for. So I had, you know, Bert Hamill, who I played and coached for as an assistant. Paul Cormier, I worked for at Dartmouth. And then Andy Toole is, you know, not only one of my closest friends, but also a guy I worked for. So, you know, right now I probably was a little different with Andy being in the league this year. but they've since left. But that I don't think that got in the way a whole lot. I still would call him and bounce ideas off him, and from outside of that, I wouldn't call those other guys as much mentors because I never really spoke to them a whole lot. Like I spoke to, one of the best things I did for the 2 guard is right when Pat Beeline got the Niagara job, we were in the same league. So he would give me some things, but he wouldn't give me everything, and then he left the league and I went and spent 2 days with him up at Niagara. And it was almost like eye-opening to see. He kept saying, like, it's not the plays, like, don't worry about the plays, like, you guys are good, you'll see the game, you'll know the counters, you'll know when to call different things. It's more the system and how you pass and how you catch and how you drive it, and all the kind of little drills within the system and how you do it. So because of how we played, then you just find yourself watching a lot of people that do that, right? So I watched a lot of Michigan. Ted Hotelian, who's at New Haven, runs all 2-guard stuff. He does an unbelievable job. I watched a lot of their offense. Mike McDonald at Damon, did a call with him during this time. Before that, I never had a conversation with him, and he has no idea I watch his team all the time for their offensive stuff. And then, defensively, I kind of stopped watching Syracuse. I think we're a little bit different than them. I watch a lot of Washington. They're a little more aggressive in the way they do it. Eastern Michigan. So just kind of watching people that do the same things we do and see if there's just some little things we can pick up.
Got it. And last question, what is your why for why you like to coach college and just coaching in general?
You know what? I think that changes over time, especially as you get older. It's like, I think the why for all of us is most of us were either like a former player or a former manager or somehow involved in the game. So early on, you really coach probably because you just want to stay involved with the game, right? That's part of it, right? But then as you kind of, I think it's more just helping people, right? Helping people win. I don't know. We say win everything, right? We don't ever talk about the scores of our games. We talk about, winning the drill, winning the rep. That's why we time and score almost everything. Win the weight session. That guy got 28 pull-ups. Are you going to get 29? And I think that just translates to life. If you're constantly trying to have small wins, you kind of win the big game. As the Bill Walsh book says, the score takes care of itself. So, now you do it because the camaraderie with the players and helping people become the best version of themselves. And I don't know, the shared suffering. It's, my wife who's not an athlete, she kind of gets a kick out of, if I see a former teammate that I may have not talked to in 10 years, I don't know if this is going to be allowed anymore with social distancing, but, the smile and the hugs and like the former player. And I think a lot of that comes with, if you have never done this or weren't involved in sports, you have no idea the hours and the wins and the losses and all the different things that you go through with people. You can't really, I don't care what other profession you have, it doesn't simulate it. And I don't know, I think we're all crazy because someone said it to me great the other day. It's like, you're not even that excited anymore when you win, and it's like gut wrenching when you lose. So it's almost like, why are we really doing this? And I think the answer is, some of the just the interactions and helping people and like the lifelong bonds that you form with some of your former players and teammates.
That's great. So I really appreciate you coming on. It was amazing. Next week we have Pat Lawless. He's a high school scout and he hosts events and stuff. So he'll talk about social media, scouting and relationships. Coach, once again, this was amazing. Do you want to give anyone a way to contact you? Or?
Yeah, email would be best, and it's simple. It's just Gallo, GALLOJ at merrimack.edu.
Awesome. You guys can also email me or hit me up on social media or whatever if you didn't get that. So Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Coach. Have a good weekend and recruiting meeting.
Awesome. Have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.